Hello and welcome to the Family Business. I'm Joe Casiglione Jr., have Isaac Stoops with me today, and we got a really special guest today. Oklahoma wide receiver from 2020 to 2022, Pro Bowler, first team All Big 12 in 2022, and a second round draft pick, Marvin Mims. Marvin, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you all for having me.
No, we're really excited. We're going to talk about a little Broncos, a little Oklahoma, a little everything in between. But we got to ask off the top. So you did play 1 year with Russell Wilson. The year before, he was known for doing some warm-ups in the airplane. Did he ever do some warm-ups in the airplane? Were you guys ever throwing a little catch in the hallway in the, team warm-ups, a little team cadence? Did any of that happen in your 1 year with Russ?
It's funny. I heard that story probably a week ago, for the first time. And so the way the plane's set up, so all the vets and stuff, it's by seniority. So all the vets, they'll be in the front, and then the rookies are basically all the way in the back with some of the training staff and stuff like that. So I never saw it, but I did hear about it from the year before last, probably a week ago or earlier this week.
I can imagine I'm taking a nap on a plane, like an international flight, I think it was, and I'll just look left and someone's running up and down the aisle. Well, I think something was wrong.
Yeah.
I'd look for the exit.
You're running some routes on air, just in the hallway. You're throwing it, hits you, the ball hits you in the face. You're like, what are we doing here? But
yeah, I was gonna bring that up too. Obviously, you only played 1 year with him, but I feel like you had out of everyone on the team, you had a very high production rate. I mean, special teams also, you made a Pro Bowl, but I feel like you had minor targets compared to the production you were having. How was that? How was that? What was that like? And how did you kind of overcome that challenge? Because you go from your production at OU and you're the guy, and then there. I'm not saying you weren't the guy, but it's just you weren't getting all the attention that you normally did.
Yeah, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie to you, but part of it's a little understanding, and then also we had Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, two vet guys, two guys that are really good. So they took a majority of the snaps, but even the first, probably not the first game, but then games 2 through 4. I mean, I was balling out, went for over 100 yards in the game, scored a touchdown, had a kick return touchdown. So just to taste that success in the NFL felt so good. And then the rest of the season was kind of bland for me at the receiver position. But I say the main thing was the returning definitely kept me engaged, kept me in it, to be able to go out there and get the balls in my hands, make a play, whenever I could. That probably took me throughout the season. But just thinking about the mental side of it. I mean, the NFL season's so long. We start training camp July, go through preseason, and then start the first game, and then we're not done until late January if you don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's a long, up and down mentally, all that stuff. So you just kind of stay in it, get ready for the next game. Hope things are different, hope you get the opportunities you want, and then just try to make the most of them when they come.
And that's what you did on the special teams and ended up making a Pro Bowl. Talk about making the Pro Bowl. Where were you when you found out? And then what was the feelings? And then actually going and participating in it and just being around all those star-studded guys, the guys you looked up to, probably at times.
Yeah, it's funny because it was the New Year's. I want to say we played on New Year's Eve. We played on New Year's Eve. It was a New Year's Eve game, and then Adam Starling and his family, the pastor at Victory Family Church, they're in town because they know me and Samaj's family real well. So they're in town, and we were in Boulder, which is probably an hour away from where the practice facility and everything is out here. So we were out there, and we were just hanging out. And then Justin Simmons, our vet safety, he also made the Pro Bowl that year. He texted me, and he's like, "Hey man, congrats, huge accomplishment. You're only a rookie, year one. Can't wait to see what happens." And I responded "Thanks, bro, but I have no idea what you're talking about." And he's like, "Well, you'll see later." And so it goes the whole day, I'm thinking about it. Hour drive back, I'm thinking about it. And then later that night, Sean Payton calls me. He literally calls me. He's like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm good. How are you?" He's like, "Good, good. Just want to tell you made the Pro Bowl. Congratulations." And then he was like, "See you tomorrow," and then hung up. It was probably a 30-second phone call. Literally the quickest thing. But that's probably how I found out. I told my parents right after, and then the next day we had a team meeting, and they put the slideshow up there, ended up being me, Pat, and Justin. So it was sick. It was insane, especially to go there. Saw CD, talked to CD, talked to Baker. Had those guys up there, and just to be around in the locker room, I was right next to Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. So just to pick those guys' brain, get to know those guys a little bit better. I mean, it's sick. You're talking about a kid that 2 years ago, I'm in my sophomore year in college, like watching these guys on TV, and then now you're telling me I'm in the locker room with them at the Pro Bowl. Like I'd be like, you're insane. It's ridiculous. But it was sick. It was a huge fun experience. I mean, I'd love to do it every year.
Yeah, we hope you can do it every year. I was gonna say,
Yeah, me too.
growing up, it was like, it's changed now. To my understanding, it's like a bunch of like almost like mini games, like challenges, right? Like,
Yeah.
what I mean, would you like to see it go back to the actual game how it used to be when we were growing up? Or I mean, obviously, maybe it's for the player's safety, but I don't know. I just always really liked like the old format.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like being a player and like going through it. I think it's definitely player safety because like you're talking about 18 weeks. Like I said earlier, I mean, you're going from end of July to the end of January, and it's like most of those guys probably played that Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Played that Sunday, took the flight out that Tuesday, Wednesday to wherever the location is. And they're out there doing the events and stuff too. So it's like I think at that time, like guys are like really tired, just mentally, physically drained. So the flag football aspect was cool. I mean, guys don't take it too serious. Like every now and then, see some competition. But
Yeah.
I mean, even with that, a majority of the points are in the events.
Yeah, it's cool to see that because of those events. It kind of peels back the curtain a little bit. There's a lot more player interaction. I remember I was watching dodgeball and
Yeah.
one of the throwing competitions. It kind of you get to feel like you know them more is in watching those
Yeah,
events.
I
But
mean, I guess you're there because of what you did already during the season. So at that point, it's almost like just like a celebration, like with your peers or people, that I don't know, just having that like you're good enough to sit at the same table as those guys. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a little bit
Yeah,
more
for sure.
lighthearted.
it is, and you're kind of if there's a way that they can kind of continue to build the competition now that format's taken place, it'll be entertaining for everybody. But you're probably asking the same questions that some of now, maybe Drake is reaching out to you or some other guys who are transitioning to the NFL now. So I want to ask you, for a guy who's stepping in the NFL now and just having 1 year under your belt, what's your best advice for somebody transitioning to the NFL and, from somebody who's done it?
Yeah, I'd say like the biggest thing from college to the NFL is like y'all already kind of talked about it, just going from being the guy to like being a guy, especially unless you're drafted like in that first round. Like you really got to fight for a spot, and most of it's through special teams. I mean, you're gonna have to find your identity in special teams. A lot of big time players like become big time players. I mean, Tyreek Hill started off as a returner. Was a Pro Bowl returner, and ended up being the receiver he is now. So I guess that's like the biggest difference. But really just staying healthy. Staying available because. I mean, every week they're going to try out new guys on your off day, come take your spot, just different stuff like that. I mean, it's a real business, and like people say it all the time, but it's like different when you're in it. Like it's different when you come back from that day where they cut half the roster and the guy you're sitting next to or the locker that's empty, everything's empty. Like no one's really in the facility anymore. So it's completely it's crazy. I mean, even this year, Justin Simmons was our all pro safety, arguably one of the best players on our defense, all pro, Pro Bowl, and we end up cutting him. So it's like anything can happen.
Yeah, I've always heard like the best ability is availability, like because it really is. It's I didn't know you guys cut him, by the way. That's kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
how has it been trying to stay healthy during that such a long grind of the season as you've already spoke to? Has it? I mean, obviously they probably have top notch facilities and everything at your disposal, but how is it compared to like college?
Yeah, I'd say like the facilities and then the people working in facilities are great. I'd say like the biggest difference is like NFL facilities aren't like as glitzy and glamorous as like college facilities, with everything that looks cool, everything that looks good. Like you're gonna get your basic like hot tub, cold tub, you're gonna get your training room, you're gonna have probably have like 7 trainers on staff. So there's always someone available, to help you out. And I say that's the biggest thing. Like just even when you think you're feeling good, like just stay on it, especially if we have minor tightness, tweaks, all that different type of stuff. Because I went through college, like I didn't miss a game in college. And then I got to Denver and we go through rookie camp. I pull my hip flexor. Then we go through OTAs. I pull my hammy. And then we go through training camp. I pull my other hammy. And so I'm like getting hit with all these injuries I've never had to deal with before. And like part of it was because I didn't know how to recover, how to take care of my body, because I never had to do it in college. And then, throughout the season, I was healthy until probably the second to last game. Had a minor hamstring injury. Was able to come back the last game, but other than that, I mean, that's the big thing. Just trying to stay healthy, stay on that field, and just like you said, availability is the best ability.
It's always fascinating that when they show the facilities for the NFL teams and like
Yeah.
you're used to OU, it's really
Because
top.
good
But
for
just-
recruiting purposes. Yeah.
like the Chiefs have like there was the player survey and they ranked like F. And I'm like, they're winning Super Bowls
Yeah,
and
they're
their
winning Super
facilities are bad. And you see pictures of it, you're like, this looks like a nice high school locker room. So it's always weird to see those transition, especially when you're treating it like a business. You guys spend a lot of time in there too. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And you talked about making your impact on special teams, and that's kind of something you did at Oklahoma your final year. Maybe something you didn't do in your earlier career was return punts for this reason or that. But I remember I sent out a tweet during the Nebraska game. You had a punt return, and it was a really good one. I was like, that's what happens when you allow Marvin to return punts. And it like blew up. But just talk about building that base of playing special teams the final year and, maybe like why you weren't doing that before.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing was I just know from like a coaching staff standpoint, we had like a weird rotation thing going. So I think Coach Finley, who is our tight ends coach,
Mhm.
I think he was coaching punt return and maybe punt. I know for sure Coach Gundy, he was over kick return and kickoff. So it's like you had these different guys doing different special teams. And like they know football, like they're great coaches and all that stuff, but it's just like a unusual thing, because the year before we had special teams, and then when Venables came, we had Coach Nunez, who was our special teams coach, and so he was over all of it. So it was like you're kind of hearing the same thing, all that stuff. But I think that weird thing is just like you had like position coaches doing different like special phases of special teams. It wasn't like a terrible thing; like they did a great job with it, but it was different, something we weren't really used to.
Yeah, I remember when I was student coaching still. Then each each coach had a division of special teams, and it was almost like a round robin of it during our however many 3 periods of practice, 4 periods of practice. We were talking earlier about. I remember the OSU game. It was you, Eric, and Drake. And Drake had, I know, pulled his groin earlier that week, so he wasn't out there returning punts, but he was suited up. But you had been our primary punt returner, and then at that costly moment, you for some reason you weren't out there. Are you able to tell us like what happened there? You might have been gassed from the series before. I don't know, but
Yeah, this was like so we're going through like practice week. I think like you know how your brother is. I mean, he wants to go 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 all the time.
yeah.
So I think Drake's like in and out of practice. They're not sure if he's going to play yet. And so me and him are roommates.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my second and third year. At away games too. So we're talking about it. He's like, "Yeah, I think they're going to have me dress out, but I don't think I'm going to play." And so we get to I guess it had to be like the Friday night team meetings. And Lincoln pulls me aside. He's like, "Hey, like DeMarco's right there too. DeMarco was our returners coach. And he's like, "Hey, like we're just gonna have you play like receiver. Like don't worry about doing any of the returns." And the way like in college, like college returning is so I don't want to call it flawed, but it's different because like as soon as the ball snapped, everybody's taking off. Versus the NFL, you just have two of the flyers or the gunners, whatever you want to call it, two guys on the end just taking off. So it's like
Yeah.
way more open, way more space. You get to make more plays. So I'm sitting there thinking in my head, like, hey, I can easily just go back there and fair catch. Like, worst comes to worst, I'll get about 10 yards. Like, let's not, like, I've been there all year. And that's not anything on Eric because Eric's been back there practicing all year too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting there, I'm like, why not just let me do it? I've been doing it all year. And then we get in the game, I'm not doing the returning. And then, Eric muffs that punt on like the 2 or 3 yard line. It was costly for us. But, yeah, I mean, it was just a weird situation. Something I didn't necessarily agree with, but every coach has their reasons.
Yeah, and I didn't mean it. I like Eric a lot, good friend. No knock on Eric. Everyone makes mistakes, and you can't point
Yeah.
loss. Can't point fingers for a
happens.
loss at anybody. Yeah, like it happens. I was just curious what ended up happening since we were on the topic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was just a crazy situation.
We all had that same reaction instantly. We're like, why is
Yeah.
Marvin not back there?
Yeah.
It was one of those instant things. And then next thing you know, a couple hours later after that game ends, Lincoln leaves for USC. And so I got to ask, there's an urban legend or you can also call it a rumor. Maybe a rumor would be but maybe that you're looking at moving on to a different place after that year would have been 2022. So was there any truth to that? Maybe were you looking on to move to a different place or a different situation before Lincoln left, or was that kind of any crossing your mind?
I think like before Lincoln left, there's especially like the way the season was going for me and just like the opportunities. I was definitely like, I don't want to say I was like unhappy, like just being like, I was definitely like not happy with it though. Like I wasn't like happy with like the opportunities I got and all that different stuff. And we were winning. So at that point, until the end of the season, like there was not much really to be said. We were winning games. Everybody's happy. But just from my role in the offense, I wasn't necessarily ecstatic about it. And so me and my dad had talked about it literally that morning because I think him and my mom had stayed in probably like OKC. At this time, we're home and they're driving back and they picked me up breakfast. And then we talk about it. And he's like, "Yeah, like you might have to, transfer." And for me, it was like I didn't want to transfer. Like I love being at Oklahoma. Like to me, it was home. I spent 2 years there. I just felt loved. And then we go through the Clark texts our phones probably at like 10 o'clock that morning saying there's like a 12 or 1 o'clock team meeting. We get up there, the news breaks, all that different type of stuff. And it's like, for me, I was already like kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. Because it's not like I was eyeing somewhere else or like, hey, I want to go here. Hey, I want to go there. I will say that like in the recruiting process, the one place I really did like want to go to, I loved was TCU just because of the area, Fort Worth, beautiful school. I knew the coaching staff real well. And then my freshman year, my roommate was Chandler Morris, quarterback from Highland Park, and then he had transferred there too. So I was like, yeah, if I can do that, like that's one place I definitely would love like to be at. That'd be a lot of fun to be there and play with him. But I mean, just going through those like couple months, I mean, shoot, Isaac, you were there. Like it's just like we
Crazy.
didn't have a strength staff for the most part. We didn't have like for the first 2 weeks, we didn't have strength staff, none of that stuff. So guys are going in and doing their own thing. Some guys are already in and out. Some guys transferring. So I wanted to finish the season off. We earned a bowl game. I wanted to play in the bowl game. So that whole time, like the whole 2 weeks, like I'm going to class, I'm doing like all this regular student stuff, and like people are coming up to me. Teachers are like saying stuff in class, like asking me, like, "Are you gonna stay? Are you gonna leave?" It was like a real, like, crazy, like, stressful 2 weeks. And like during this time, like I got college coaches like illegally like texting my phone.
Oh
I
yeah.
got guys I know around the country like tweeting stuff. Like one of my best friends from high school, Dillon Ford, he just got drafted by the Saints. He was at Texas. He tweeted something at me, and all the Texas fans were commenting on it. Chandler Morris tweeted something at me. Like it's a crazy, crazy time. And I think like the main thing was like me just playing the weight game, and we hired Coach Venables. And from his like initial like talk to the team, I could tell I really liked him. But like another big thing was just who were they going to get as the OC?
Hmm.
I remember Coach Gundy like pulling. I want to say it was just me and Drake pulling me and Drake in after the whole Lincoln situation, just like asking us like, "Hey, what are you guys' idea?" And like we both said like we wanted to stay, we wanted to be here, we wanted to be a part of it. But like a big thing was the OC, like who was going to come, who was going to be the OC at Oklahoma, and like am I going to fit the offense? Am I not going to fit the offense? Like, do y'all still want me? So that was probably the biggest thing. And then whenever the news like Levy broke out, just seeing his offense, seeing how it worked, watching that Ole Miss and Baylor game, just knowing that it was the right fit for me after talking to him, all that different type of stuff. So I was really excited about it. Just the change, I feel like it came at a great time. We got DG in there too, and
Hmm.
that helped a lot after Spence and Caleb both leaving. It was just weird. I mean, it was a complete flip of like a culture and organization. I mean, you talk about
Yeah.
players, coaches, all that stuff. I think we only had Coach Finley, Gundy, and Coach Murray, DeMarco. I think those are the only three coaches that really stayed. Coach Beadenbow too, but like other than that, I mean, everyone else was kind of in and out.
Yeah, it was like you said. You were like for those first few weeks, like just kind of sorting out the mess. Like obviously my dad, stepping up and coming in, that was cool. But for a few weeks there, I almost like we all just kind of felt like I was like a normal student. Like we had nothing to do with football there for
Yeah,
a little bit because like we just didn't really have direction yet. But obviously got it all sorted out. What was your favorite part about, I guess, that what bowl game was that when that my dad coached him?
Alamo Bowl.
Alamo Bowl. What
yeah,
was it like?
Alamo
Kind
Bowl.
of, I guess, playing for him for a month, and with Drake, and I don't know, we had a good time. I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we had too good of a time. I mean, like it was so like laid back and like chill. Like practices, don't get me wrong, like practices were Oklahoma practices.
Mhm.
Like we went out there, we worked our tail off. But as far as like after practice, it's kind of like, hey, do what y'all want to do. Like here's a curfew, be back before this hour. Like it was the most simple, chill thing. And it's funny because like so I have two teammates now, Troy Franklin and Alex Forsythe. They're at Oregon. And every time I get to bring it up, like I always say, like, yeah, y'all know about that Sooner football. Came and whooped y'all at the Alamo Bowl, and they hate it every time I bring it up. But it's like because they were basically going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm. It was
Like us, I felt like we had so much to prove in that game, and we just came out there like bullets flying, like just playing free. And I felt like we really needed that as a football team.
there's something too, you get to the end of the season and it's different in different situations, but you built it all up, the groundwork's laid. You just got to go play football at the end of the day. There's some strategy stuff, but it's not like you're going to change a lot of fundamentals. And
it almost, like you said, it almost felt like we were proving like, hey, we're a team worth coaching or worth staying for is almost how it felt. Like there was a lot to prove, and it was, that was a really good time.
It was a time to be alive, for sure. Social media was at peak during that, I remember. We do have to talk about one game in particular in 2021, the OU Texas game. I got to ask, one of the most legendary Sooner catches is, the one where Caleb's scrambling, throws it to you, and you have that toe drag right inside the pylon. What do you remember about that game? The comeback, the catch, were you just like, okay, I'm just going to go up and try to catch this, and my feet are going to land where they land? Or were you focused on your feet, and you're like, I just got to know, because it's still like one of the most remarkable catches in college football history, just understanding the actual importance of it.
Yeah, I think like it's funny because this gets brought up like way more than y'all think. Like, because we got so many like Texas guys in the locker room, and then like Delarian Turner, he's talking mess like every day. So this gets brought up all the time. But the one thing like I remember about that game, it had to be the hottest game I've ever played in my life. Like I'm sitting there on the bench, like not knowing if I'm going to get through the game, and so like we're struggling at first. They're like I think we're down like 21-0, like probably in the first 3 minutes maybe of the game, like literally like that. So like we're fighting back, like we got turnovers, all types of stuff, and then Caleb comes in and we get a spark. And I remember we're down like by like I want to say it's like 17, maybe 17, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. But we're going in the locker room like at halftime, like hey, like we're feeling like we're winning, like everyone's juiced up, everyone's excited. We go back out there and like we're getting these good drives, but we just can't finish them. A bunch of like field goals and stuff like that, and then the play comes with the catch, and it's like. It's funny because it was 3rd and 19. Obviously, we needed to make a play, and we knew from just scouting them, like we knew Texas was going to be in a cover two. So, like with Coach Riley, that was like his favorite cover two beater play. It was a little like post and the wheel off the post, and so Mike Woods, he's on the outside of me. He runs the post, and then I'm getting through it, and it's kind of like we're in the boundary, so it's kind of like mushed up, it's kind of squashed. I'm getting through, and like I see Caleb running around. And like when Caleb runs, like you never know what's going to happen. So I'm like sitting there like jogging, looking back, and next thing you know, he just launches it. And like the only thing I remember is like looking, like I'm literally like staring at the ball, like looking up in there the whole time. Dudes grab my shoulder pads, I'm trying to push them off, and then I just like go for the ball and then try and get my foot down as soon as possible because I know I'm like right there. But like the thing that like I didn't know how like far I was. So like when I land, like I'm right there on the pylon. And then everyone starts going crazy, and I like had no idea if I caught it or not. And then like B Will's running down the sideline, picks me up, and like he said like the whole time he saw the whole thing and just knew I caught it. So it was sick. I mean, that was probably it's up there for my life, like life events. I mean, that was especially for that game, like half crimson, half burnt orange. I mean, it's insane.
We were laughing about that celebration earlier because it's just, I don't know, it was all over Twitter. Did you just black out or like that was your initial reaction to start kicking your feet?
Bro, I literally blacked out. Like I was so hyped after making that catch. I didn't know what to do.
It's like a little kid trying to get all his energy out. And he just like, B Will, big guy, just comes picks you up and you're just like running in the air.
Oh, man.
It's crazy. All right,
and that's it's up there with like Baker flag plant, maybe him grabbing his nuts. I don't know. There's some notable celebrations from some guys. Man.
Some more PG rated than others, but I always think too, it's like credit to the referee who actually saw your toe inbounds and called it correctly. Because I remember they reviewed it, of course, but it was like no wait. I'm praying he's right, but I'm like it was so close. I was like
at that point, like all the momentum was on our side. I feel like. I don't know. He probably just had a good feeling. He's like, they're doing it, man. Like,
that was crazy, especially like for him to call that. Because if he doesn't call that touchdown, like the rest of it's just. I mean, they're probably gonna review it and like it's gonna be a touchdown. But just like
It's
the
not
momentum,
as
the
cool. Yeah.
energy, the whole stadium, like it's all gone. Like if he doesn't call that a touchdown.
Yeah, everyone just freaked out. But we were, like, it's not easy to make those plays, and we kind of talked about like what's it like being that number one receiver at OU, following in the footsteps of CeeDee Lamb, Marquise Brown, Ryan Broyles, just some more recent guys to name some. Like, did that kind of like, I don't know who you rooted for growing up, or like, but when you choose in a college, like, did like thinking of like, following in such a rich, history for a program, and like such a, big legacy, did that ever like cross your mind, or not really until you became like the guy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was like, especially like getting recruited to Oklahoma. I mean, you know about the history, the legacy of the school. And, I feel like every time you go to a situation, you just want to be that guy. You just want to be, and there's like, in college, there's probably like 16 receivers on the roster. So you got to be like, you try as hard as you can to be one out of 16. And it's just, coming in my freshman year, like I was given like opportunities and made the absolute most of them almost like every time I got the chance to. And that time we had Rambo, Trade was out. I want to say Jaden was hurt. And so everything kind of kept falling for me to kind of like step in with the great opportunity I had to come in and be the dude. And it's like you grow up watching these guys. Like right before I go into college, I'm watching CD and he's tearing it up every Saturday. And then you got, Ryan Broyles texting me, Mark Clayton texting me, reaching out to me. So it's like sick. But also there's like you go into year two, and then you go into year three, and they're getting, a couple guys under you. But it's like, those guys can easily come in and had the freshman year I had, my freshman year. So like most of it's like it's a blessing, it's great, but like there's like a target on your back to be the next number one receiver or the guy who wants to come in and take your spot and all that different type of stuff. So that's like the biggest thing about college is like they're always recruiting to take your spot. Because no coach is going to say no to the 5-star receiver, the number one receiver in the country that wants to come in and be the guy right now. So you just kind of keep that edge on you. And I feel like my game definitely took off whenever I went into year two and got in a room with Coach Gundy and Drake Stoops. Just because the way Drake is mentally, the way he's wired, the way he works. I mean, we're doing everything together. We're out there at slot competing, and then we go in the weight room and lift together. And then Coach Gundy, I mean, the way he coaches, the way he is to all his players, I mean, he's going to make you the best he can possibly make you, because if he doesn't, he's going to feel like he's cheating you. And he's not going to be able to sleep at night. And then we go into year three, and you add Coach Schmidt to that, and you talk about a winter and a summer of it's like you're starting to do things that you could never imagine yourself doing. And you're transforming your body in ways you never thought your body could transform. And it's just like stuff like that that makes Oklahoma special. Because without Drake Stoops, I mean, there's no question I'm not the receiver I would have been at Oklahoma or going into the NFL that I was. Just because of him pushing me there every day, I know he's going to bring his best. So you know what? If I want this spot, if I want to be one of the guys, I got to bring my best too every day because I know he's going to bring his best.
Respect.
Yeah, I always loved playing under Gundy. He wasn't my coach, but he treated everybody the same. He coached a star player from the walk-on the exact same. There wasn't any special treatment. Everybody was going to get ripped. It doesn't matter who you were. But at the same time, you were going to get coached. Some coaches won't name them, but they don't coach the walk-ons. They'll just allow them to be out there. And so some appreciate. What are your feelings and your thoughts on, Coach Gundy, of course, is not coaching here anymore. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? It sounds like you're extremely close with him. Like, do you still talk with him? And just kind of about a situation that ended up to his, his removal at OU.
Yeah, it was tough because at that point, I'm going from having Coach Simmons freshman year, who I had a great relationship with. Him and Gundy kind of swapped recruiting me coming through high school. So I knew him great. It was great. Then we go into Coach Gundy's room my second year, and it's complete opposite, just the way he is, the man he is, the way he coaches. Then we go into year three, and I'm like, you know what? It's a huge change just because with Venables coming, we got all the receivers in one room. And that's the first time that's ever happened. So we got all these guys in one room, and, everyone – the way Coach Gundy coaches isn't for everybody. It's not for everybody. Like the way he rips you, the way he jumps on you, just like you said, he's going to do it to one guy the way he's going to do it to the star player, the best player on the team. And it's not for everybody at all. So just having that, we knew it was going to be different. Me and Drake, just from being in that slot room to him bringing in everybody. And then just like his departure, it sucked just because I didn't want to have a third receiver coach. Luckily we had Coach LaDamian Washington in there being our analyst, and then he was able to step up with, other than Coach Venables bringing in a new guy. And so that was a big thing for me. Just seeing Gundy go, just knowing what he meant to the school, to the program, the way he coaches, the way he is, and also the transformation from Coach LaDamian Washington being like the good guy, helping guys out, to now he has to put that hard hat on and kind of start jumping people in different ways just because he's a receiver coach. He can't let certain things slide. And so that was another hard thing. And me and Coach Washington ended up having a great relationship. Someone who played in the NFL, someone who played really well at Mizzou in college. And, just that me coming back my fourth year about that question, I mean, without him being able like to say like, yeah, they're bringing me back and all that stuff, that kind of altered it because I didn't want three different receivers coaches in 3 years. I definitely didn't want four different receiver coaches in 4 years. So just that whole thing. And yeah, me and Coach Gundy still talk today. I've been on his radio show. He texts me every now and then, always asking how the family's doing. I mean, you talk about just like a great all around guy, treats everybody the same, everyone with love and respect. I mean, he deserves everything he has in life. I mean, that's a great dude, great family.
Yeah, it still feels wrong. Yeah, very relationship, family driven man, and it's shown, with the players that he's produced. Something that's been cool too is the growth of Frisco. You're from Frisco, Lone Star. Oklahoma just actually signed two brothers, or one's committed, one's signed with the Hawkins brothers. What's it like knowing that you're kind of it's such a young community? What's it like knowing that you kind of trailblazed of what's going to be an exploding amount of high schools in the future? But what's it like just looking at your hometown and saying like, oh, I was kind of one of the first few of this new renaissance of Frisco?
Yeah, it's sweet. It's really cool, especially going back there. A lot of people know me when I'm back home, like if I'm going to the restaurant, at the mall, something like that. People ask for pictures and stuff, and it's a good feeling because the one thing you want to do when you leave is like leave a good like reputation with yourself, especially where you're from. Because my family's still out there at high school. I still go to my high school, work out, all that different type of stuff. So it's cool to be able to see younger kids. Like at this point, it's like kids that were in middle school, kids that are in elementary school, and now they're growing up to be in high school. And I'm like kids that cheered for me whenever I was in high school, and seeing them accomplish their dreams, do what they want in life, and sign to all these different places. So just that part of it is amazing, and just the growth of Frisco is ridiculous. Every time I go, I see like probably like 5 minutes down the street from my parents' house, I'll see like a new food place or a new restaurant, like all types of different stuff. So just being one of the first guys to get from Frisco and kind of be like someone that people looked up to, all that stuff. I mean, it's a huge blessing. It's amazing.
Yeah, they just got a commitment from a tight end who was probably in middle school when you're playing Ryder Nix. He's going to be, I think he's going in his sophomore year, junior year this year. But they just got him, but he's from Lone Star, and so he's probably looking up to Marvin Mims, and now he's going to be playing in Oklahoma uniform in a couple of years. So it's crazy. I've been down there a few times. I mean, it's just an exploding community.
It's nice.
No, it's really nice.
They got that. They got the PGA new. Isn't that in Frisco? The big old new golf course, or the I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, they got that out there too.
I want to go
That's
play
sick.
out there. I don't know if I'm good enough. Yeah, they probably won't let me.
They're gonna ask you your handicap at the door.
I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Sorry, hit the door on the way out. A couple goals heading into your next year with the Broncos. Individual, team, anything under the sun. A couple goals for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think we, just moving a lot of pieces for the Broncos and just us being a young team. And kind of, I just want us to go out there and play free. Go out there, play free, play to our best of our abilities, do what we're coached. I mean, just go out there and play ball. Just being a young team, I feel like that's an advantage for us just because of the way we play and all that stuff. We can play free, have fun with it. And for myself, it's just to like do more at receiver. With the whole return game, that was amazing. I want to be a Pro Bowler again. That would be sweet too. But just to do more at receiver, do more all around, and just kind of be mentally in it the whole season, throughout the whole year, be there for my teammates, all that different type of stuff. Going into year two versus going into year one, I mean, it's complete transformation, just like mentally. Just like knowing what to expect, knowing the things y'all do on a week-to-week basis, knowing how the game planning is going to be. And, it kind of sounds simple, but in the NFL, I mean, it's a completely different game.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all we have for you today, Marvin. But before we let you go, we've kind of started this new segment where we let our guests ask us a question. Like, I don't know if you have any. If you don't have any, no big deal. Or like, what's our look like? What SEC venue are we looking forward to most? What are our thoughts on the SEC? Anything under the sun, really. The last few guests have all kind of asked similar questions, so I'm giving you ideas here.
Yeah, they've typically.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
I'd say, I guess like what are y'all thoughts on the SEC? Because I mean now I'm at the point where like guys I play with, there's maybe like 10 guys I play with on the team. So there's only so much I can ask them. So like y'all being around and stuff, what y'all's thoughts on the team and how's everything looking?
That's always a weird feeling when you're like transitioning out. You're like, man, I only know like 5 guys on the team anymore. It just feels different. Like, I don't
feel so old.
It's the same building, but you're like, this place looks really different. I don't know what's happening around here, but I think it's really exciting. I mean, I think that's when it kind of goes back to the transition from Lincoln to BV as kind of a, at first it may have been like a blessing in disguise, but now it's just a blessing because it's clear to say, and you've been part of it too, that the style that BV brings is going to transition a lot better to the SEC. I mean, week to week, it is a grind. I know from a fan perspective, everybody's really excited just going to new venues. You played against good, Iowa State and Kansas State teams, but there's something different when you're rolling down into play LSU or you're going to play Ole Miss in an afternoon game. So there's something different about just seeing that name on the schedule for fans, players, and everybody alike. That's really exciting. And then it's going to be fun for all the other sports too. I mean, I think every sport's going to have to step up in competition going forward. Softball is going to be a lot of fun. Baseball is going to be a lot of fun. Even SEC basketball is a lot better than people think and anticipate. But I'm really excited. I think the defense, having that foundation of what they have this year going into year one was extremely crucial. I think we might be having different conversations of, a little bit more hesitancy heading to it, if Danny and Billy didn't return. So I think they're in a good position. Don't get me wrong, it's hard, and I think people are going to have to judge their success scale a little bit. You've been around. People always look for 10-win seasons, and while we're shooting for a 10-win season, that may not be, I wouldn't say realistic, but that may not be the case year after year. So if you go, especially with the expanded playoff, if you go 8-4, 9-3, I mean, 8-4 is not great, but 9-3 may get you in the playoff. And so it's completely different.
Especially coming out of the SEC.
Exactly. And so I think it's just changed expectations for fans, players, coaches alike of, they're always going to hope for the best, but success may look a little different than what it used to.
Yeah, that's kind of along the same lines. That's a little bit what I'm excited for is that almost like sense of credibility. Now people can't knock us for our wins at like whatever away opponent or home opponent, or even some losses aren't as bad if you lose to a good LSU team at LSU. And I mean, I'm just really excited about Danny and Billy and Woody and them all coming back and being like the cornerstone of our defense. I think Coach Venables has done a really good job of establishing that culture of like intensity and accountability. Like as far as, I mean, you've been in his practices, his meetings. I really think that he gives us an edge, and recruiting wise, I mean, and even with our transfer portal guys, like our defense is, we've been trying to get SEC ready. And so, and you know how it is in, SEC, it comes down to a lot of to the line of scrimmage. So I think, that's kind of where I'm at, but I'm excited. I think going to all the venues will be really fun.
Marvin,
I'm excited for it too. I mean, it's gonna be sick. Just to be able to watch, us play different teams. I mean, kind of get used to a different challenge. I had dinner last night with Gavin Sawchuk's parents because they're out here too in the Denver area. So, we talked about it a little bit and everything, how that's changing. Like, I mean, with my last year, NIL wasn't really booming. It was booming at some schools, but OU wasn't really taking a part of it. So it's like hearing so much about the game that's changing and all the different people that are at the school. Like I said earlier, I think I have like 11 guys that are probably like still on roster that I played with in college. So it's just different, it's a whole nother ball game. And, I just know I mean, I talked about it earlier, just the culture, the way Coach Venables handled himself my last year, the way I was there, the first year he was there. And it's just like, you just kind of just know, like you guys said, it was a blessing in disguise, but now it's just like a blessing. You can physically tell out there how those guys are different. You can tell how they're playing different, how smart they are, how the team conducts themselves. I mean, it's just a complete night and day transformation.
People also talk about getting Schmitty back was almost
for
as
sure
important as getting BV.
It was for me, it was a huge eye opener. because like you have, I mean, on the roster, I mean, on the coaching staff, we had Coach Gundy, Coach Venables come in. We had DeMarco, Coach Finley. Like we have all these guys that played under Coach Schmitty. So they're
Mhm.
telling you all these stories. You go when you get to OU, you hear about Schmitty stories. You're wondering who this Schmitty guy is. And it's like first day he's there. Like I'm telling you, like that first week he was there, like especially from the vets, as in me, Braden Willis, Justin Broyles, Drake Stoops. Like I mean, we're zoned in, like we're locked in. Like there's no side talk, there's no playing around, there's no messing with your shoes. Like you're like this man's talking like you're eye to eye with him every word he speaks. Like nobody's trying to mess up any of that stuff. And it was a huge. You can definitely tell from the guys who had been in a successful program coming from high school and all that stuff, and then the guys who weren't, just from the way Schmidt conducts himself. I mean, let a guy do something wrong, let him take a coaching point wrong, and everyone's doing up downs. And then now you're at the point where you know what Justin Broyles is pissed at this guy because he won't listen, he won't shut up, he won't do what he needs to do. So now it's costing the whole team. And now you get at that point where accountability is a huge thing. Now you get at that point where people are getting in trouble for not going to class, which wasn't a thing before.
Mm-hmm.
And so just from the whole outlook from a being a man perspective was completely different when Coach Schmitty and Coach Venables came there.
Yeah, people forget that.
Big dog.
Big dog. What are we doing? Let's get a 50 piece. Let's get a 50 piece. But the strength coach is spending more time with you than, or as much as your position coach. And so they're building all that,
sure.
That culture almost as much as everybody. So it's a really good point, going forward into the SEC.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, Marvin. We appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you guys for having me. This was fun.
No, good luck this year. We'll be cheering for the Broncos. And so we'll be cheering for you and your success, except for when you play the Chiefs. I'm sorry. But that's just me personally. But wish you luck. Thanks for coming on, Marvin. For everybody watching, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us help you, get great guests like Marvin Mims. And so we'll catch you next week with another edition of The Family Business. And remember to keep it in the family.